But I'm going to talk to Robert for a second until Justin gets here. Robert, calling from Georgia, pronouns he, him. Hello, you're on AXP with Forrest and Only Forrest. How are you today, Robert?
Yes, fine, Forrest. Thank you.
Right on. So I would love to know what you're calling about. Justin will hopefully rise from the dead like Jesus in just a couple of seconds. But in the meantime, you've got me, and I would love to talk for just a second about some other stuff.
All right, right on.
So what exactly were you calling about as far as these two prophecies? Because what it says here in the chat is that the call screen is that you're ready to roast Justin on Jesus fulfilling at least two prophecies. What prophecies are we talking about?
Well, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like Jesus fulfilled any prophecies?
So I'm not in any way a Bible expert or scholar, but I can tell you that the prophecies that I know of, no, a lot of it is like it said something in the Old Testament and then said the prophecy was fulfilled in the New Testament. And there are even a couple of situations in which like it's very clear that the New Testament was like kind of massaged and force fit into this Old Testament prophecy. Like, for example, Jesus in the Old Testament is called Emmanuel, I believe. And so you have this idea of this guy named Emmanuel, who's going to be this Messiah figure that comes out of wherever and you have then suddenly, I think it's John, I don't remember one of the Gospels, Justin will know when he gets back, where it's kind of like just clearly force fitting. Like they were talking about this guy, Emmanuel actually means Jesus. They just didn't know it at the time. So like things like that, kind of. But beyond that, as far as actual prophecies of Jesus himself, I certainly wouldn't want to call myself an expert on any of that.
Right on. Well, do you have any way to pull up Habakkuk 2, chapter 2?
I don't know what that is. I can ask you also, like, while we're waiting on Justin to resurrect, there's Justin. He's back right there. And my God, he looks so different.
I've done exactly what Jesus did, and I was resurrected and unrecognizable to any of my followers.
That's what it is.
I'm Justin.
I do want to add, like, while we're here, Robert, while we're waiting on Justin to get back, because I don't want to steal his thunder and pull up these prophecies that you're saying you want to roast him on. Like, maybe we can focus on some other parts of the Bible, like the resurrection story, for example. Do you agree that the resurrection story in the Bible is totally unreliable, or do you think that the resurrection story makes sense?
Well, it definitely makes sense as far as that's what all the surrounding cultures had through history before Jesus, and they kept saying that was going to happen, and then it actually happened.
Just happened to happen with other gods and things like that. And then here in the Bible, you get 4 different resurrection stories. What about like the beginning of the Bible, like the creation of the world? Do you think that the Genesis account is real? I'm just trying to find something interesting to talk to you about is all.
Right on. Well, my thing is I could never become an atheist. Just being real with you, you want honest people and honest thoughts. And when I find out of different things that are going on, how could I deny the reality that we're living? And it's so put together, our minds, our bodies, creation. I'm getting ready for hunting season and just seeing how beautiful everything's put together, knowing all the hurt that's in this world and all. But I could never deny now a creator, whether it's the Islam God or the other God, any God you want, man-made God. But I could never deny a creator or master programmer or designer. Something had to do something with this.
What gets you to a creator? What gets you there, Rob? Because you said you can't deny one, but what are the steps that get you from seeing all this we've got around us to that creator? There must be a series of steps that gets you thinking and those thought processes. Take us through those thought processes.
All right. The thought process that I would come to is love and hate. And there's a distinction between good and evil, and you can choose it. It said, you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So just our human experience down here for the little bit of time that we are, I just believe that there's definitely something going on that you can experience it and have the integrity to want to do one or the other. Because some people are just hell-bent on being evil. And I don't understand it, and that's the way it is. But
let me ask you then, there, Robert. Do you believe that this, whatever this creator is, whatever it might look like, do you believe that it is in some sort of control of this universe?
that is really hard to say at the moment, because it seems like he just spun it up and walked away from it and let us figure it out. As far as getting help, supernatural help. I believe he's a supernatural God, but he supernaturally spun it all up, and now we're here to experience it, and we have natural law, and we just go by it, and it don't
so
like he intervenes.
You talked about when you talked about you have to believe there's a creator. You didn't just mention the universe existing. You were sure to say that, like, there's all this suffering and all this different stuff going on all over the place. It sounded to me like you were saying there's somebody at the controls. There's some reason for all of this stuff. Now it sounds like you're taking a more deistic approach, that this God just farted the universe into existence and pieced out, and all of the pain and suffering and everything that we see around us is just a natural, unexplainable phenomena that has no real meaning. Is it one or the other?
It's definitely, there's a meaning. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to say that you would go through this life and learn all the things that we're learning for no reason, for just a waste. I don't believe that it's a waste. I believe that there is something to it all. And karma is a big thing, how you treat others. And it's important. I think we can make this place a better place.
So you're making a lot of claims that I agree with, and then a lot of claims that I don't agree with. The idea that we can, we try to treat others better, I agree with that. The idea that there's some karmic balance that is in play here, I don't agree with, right? And so this is the issue I'm having, is it sounds like you're just saying a lot of truisms, like, hey, life is hard and life is crazy and we need to try to make the world a better place. Like, sure, cool, all that. And then you're tacking on, and therefore there's some fucking wizard that made this place this way on purpose. And I don't get the connection there. How are you building that bridge from one to the other?
Because I don't get the connection how you could look at the human anatomy and the eyeballs and our minds, and being an electrician, knowing how the body works and nature and everything, and deny that there's a creator. I mean, that breaks the thermodynamics.
No, it doesn't.
Energy can't be destroyed and it can't be created. So your Big Bang Theory don't make sense. Someone had to create it.
So, Robert, you've said now, like, just in that sentence there, several things that make zero sense. Just to be clear, I have studied anatomy, and I have studied how the body is, how it works and how the different nerves go, like an electrician, and how the eyeball works. I've studied all those things, and I know what the Big Bang is, and I know what the first law of thermodynamics is. None of these things work the way that you say they do. So to answer your question, you said you don't understand how I can see all these things and not believe in a God. It's because I actually took the time to study these things. And the cool thing about anatomy is that it wholesale, 100% front to back, points towards evolution. There's no part of your anatomy that points towards any kind of divine, intelligent creator, anything like that. When we talk about the first law of thermodynamics, absolutely not violated by the Big Bang. That isn't how that works. Nor, and you didn't say this, but the most common thing is that nor is evolution violating the second law of thermodynamics. That's simply not the case. So the way that I'm able to not believe in a God while understanding these things is that I actually took the time to really understand them. I'd be happy to keep talking to you, Robert, but Justin is back if you want to talk to him about these prophecies. Or I'm happy to keep talking to you about science. It's whatever.
Yeah, I apologize. My power flickered where I live, and all my equipment had to restart itself. But I listen. You had me at prophecies. I'm all ears.
Well, okay, right on. Justin, do you have any way to pull up Habakkuk 2? Because you said Jesus didn't fulfill any prophecies. In Habakkuk 2, there's quite a few prophecies that he absolutely did fulfill.
Sure. Are they messianic?
It's definitely future. It's talking about future. The whole chapter of Habakkuk 2 starts out with saying run, because it will happen.
Well, yeah, so does Zephaniah. Zephaniah says a whole bunch of stuff that's going to happen at the day of the Lord, which is imminently near, and then none of it came true. So what part of Habakkuk 2 came true?
Well, it says that he was, the just shall live by his faith. How many people do you know today that they say the just shall live by his faith? And it says the just shall live by his faith.
Well, it says the righteous, the same thing. Righteous will live by faith, but this was already true of Abraham. This is not a messianic prophecy, and it certainly wasn't anything about Jesus.
So he didn't do any of those things all through chapter 2. I don't know if you're pulling it up on the screen or you're looking at it. I could pull my Bible out and start hitting all the things that there's nobody else like Zechariah 13:6. That's just one scripture instead of a whole Habakkuk 2, the whole chapter. But what about Zechariah 13:6 and 5?
What about it?
It says, "What are these holes in your hands? From your friends I received from the friends of my house."
Yeah. Do you know what that passage is actually about? Because I don't think you do. That passage is talking about a future person who is trying to hide the fact that they are a prophet, because it's saying at this time period that prophecies and prophets will cease, and even those who were prophets will basically be hiding themselves. So this is the problem that you're going to have, is you're approaching the text and you're saying, here's one or two words. It just sounds like Jesus. I saw the word hole in the hand. It must be about Jesus, right? But you're ignoring the entire context of the actual passage. Like, you can't just pick out 2 or 3 words in an entire passage and claim that it's about Jesus.
All right. Well, I really thought I was going to roast you on these two, especially Habakkuk 2, because there's not too many people that in history that can line up to Habakkuk 2 if you read it. And
I've read it.
Points out. Right. Okay.
Yeah. You want to hear like a real messianic prophecy?
Sure.
Yeah. Jeremiah 33. Let me know when you get your Bible ready. Jeremiah 33 says, "The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Israel and the house of Judah. In those days and at that time, I will cause a righteous branch to spring up for David, and he shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. In those days, Judah will be saved and Jerusalem will live in safety." This is a king who physically rescues his people. And it says, "For thus saith the Lord, David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel, and the Levitical priest shall never lack a man in my presence to offer burnt offerings, to make grain offerings, and to make sacrifices forever." So in the Messianic age, according to the Bible, there will be a king on a literal throne, and there will be actual Levitical priests giving real, actual sacrifices by fire in the temple. So that means the New Testament's entirely false.
You know, it's hard for us to choke this stuff down sometimes when you try to think about what it's saying.
I know. I get it. It was hard for me too when I was first encountering the Old Testament.
We haven't thought it through, and then here's another prophecy, and then that gets shot down, and I'm trying to find the right prophecy, and I really thought I had you smoked on this one.
Yeah, I know. Well, go back and find another one and come back when you find another one that you think you got. I'll give you one prophecy that Jesus did fulfill if you want.
You're going to agree that he did fulfill one?
Only one. I don't think you're going to like it.
Sure.
Deuteronomy 13, "If prophets or those who divine by dreams appear among you and show you omens or portents, and the omens or the portents declared by them take place, and they say, 'Let us follow other gods whom you have not known, let us serve them,' you must not heed the words of those prophets or those who divine by dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether indeed you love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul. The Lord your God you shall follow, alone him you shall fear, his commandments you shall keep, his voice you shall obey, and him you shall serve and hold fast to. But those prophets who divine by dreams shall be put to death."
I'm not going to crash out on you. I know you just don't understand the Trinity and the virgin birth and all the stuff that we think. You just don't understand it. So.
That's what it is. That's so rough, Robert. That's so rough that this dude who actually has expertise in this area just actually explained some shit that you didn't know, and you're instead of even trying to grapple with it, You're just gonna, you just don't get it, yo. You just don't understand this stuff that you used to believe in, that you used to do for a living. That's so lame.
Well, Robert, come back next time, and I promise we'll have a full dialogue on the Trinity, okay?
And call me if you ever want to talk about anatomy or the Big Bang. I would be happy, because that's before you came back, Justin. That's what Robert was saying, was that, you know, if you look at anatomy and you look at how nerves are wired and you look at the human eye, it all very clearly points to God, and the Big Bang violates the first law of thermodynamics. Absolutely 0% of which is true. And as someone who has actually studied these things, I've studied anatomy at a graduate level. I can really go into it with you, and we can talk about evolution out of this, really dig into it. And we can show how none of this is divine. None of this is necessary of a God. None of this is indicative of a God. None of that. We're here for you, but it would be really cool if you could actually grapple with what we're saying, rather than just telling us that we don't understand some esoteric shit from whatever other thing you believe in.
Justin,
that blows.
Justin, he's just trying to explain to you that I got roasted twice. I got roasted before you got here, and then I got roasted out. Y'all have a good evening.
All right. Thanks for calling in, Robert.
Take care, Robert. I didn't even roast him. I didn't think. I really did. He just said some stuff, and I was like, hey, nuh-uh, though, is the thing. That's not how that works. And he just kind of dropped it. I appreciate, like, if you get caught in something that you drop it, but, like, honestly, I would rather Robert would have asked some questions, because it sounds like he's just believing whatever anybody with any kind of authority is saying. The way he brought up the whole thing about the eye and the Big Bang and these prophecies and stuff. I've never heard of Chewbacca 2, but the way he said that, like, it sounds like he heard some preacher say this, and so he brought it up to you. He's like, hey, what about Hitachi 2? And you're like, sorry, that's not what that is. And it was the same thing for me. It was just like, well, what about, the Big Bang? That violates the first law of thermodynamics. That's entirely out the window. And that's just something you heard Kent Hovind say. I'm sorry, like, that's not how that works. And if you just grappled with it the first time you heard it, or if you grappled with us refuting it, you would actually then be learning something instead of just believing what somebody told you. I hope Robert calls back and we can have a serious discussion. I don't want him just to be discouraged. I want him to try.
I suspect he will. He's called quite a few times already.